welcome to Sonia Podcast. There's a podcast called Stranger Fruit. So they talk about everything from being biracial to being Latino and being Afro Latino, how it's viewed. So I'm actually gonna let y'all hear the clip from the biracial part. Then I'll let you hear the clip from being Latino, Afro Latino.
The most prevalent. That's where it kind of started. The identity shifts a little bit. It's actually people who are light-skinned are very proud to be light-skinned because they are mestizo, or what is considered to be mestizo. And that makes the Black community feel erased. Because then it's like, oh, well, we can definitely tell you're anti-Black and then we want nothing to do with you, or we want to embrace that more by marrying a light-skinned person. So the dynamics culturally and, depending on the environment that you're raised in can also shift identity as well. Does anybody here have friends who are culturally of a different country who have a different perspective?
I'm so glad you said that. Biracial people are called Kooley in Jamaica. Donovan, you can attest to this. And it's a very nasty term.
Right.
It's a derogatory term. And so I find, to your point, it's almost like I see biraciality being more accepted in America than the islands, where it is very divisive and it's very, they think they're better.
Right.
And then there's kind of a two-way hate that happens.
Yeah.
And so I love that you brought that up because it is, I think, probably similar in Dominican culture, Puerto Rico, there is a weird, I wonder though, even in a country like Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic, isn't there something within the country, I would imagine dark-skinned Dominicans, light-skinned Dominicans, are you more Black, are you more white? What's the nuance then within a culture where people are mixed up? That's what I wonder, because in the States it's like there's Black people, white people, and biracial. But what happens when you're in a country where everyone's a little mixed up? How does that layer change?
Yeah.
They have, that's what you really do. They have the most extensive names for what you are.
Yeah.
There's a long, beautiful list to determine exactly where you are. So you can be mestizo, or you can be mulatto, or you can be they have named you where we have tried to oversimplify it, I guess, in a sense, in the United States, to be number one, because we have white people very present here, so it's you're not white, so then you must be other, and then the determination is because white has been set as being the go-to, the top of the food chain, everybody should want proximity to that. It means that simultaneously you don't want proximity to Blackness, which means that we're literally trying to jockey for position to get away from being considered Black, knowing that you will never be considered white. So the way that I see it in my Black-ass dark skin, as someone who also studies colorism, texturism, and sexuality, is that there's this beautiful dichotomy. You're watching it sort of play out, and it's actually very similar to what's going on over there, in the sense that the one-drop rule here means one drop Black, you're Black, whereas the one-drop rule in other places means one drop other, you're other. You get to now say you're not Black because you are actually claiming that one drop of other that you have, and you're claiming it hard because it comes with literal privileges.
Yeah.
So they talk about in Brazil that you can literally tell who has money by their skin tone.
Yeah.
You can literally look at them and say, you have money. Oh, you're poor. Here in the States, we like to believe that you can't tell that here, except that you can. Because we also have a color caste system.
Yes.
We just don't want to acknowledge the color caste system, especially because racism seems to be our primary modicum of saying fuck you to all kinds of people. So it ends up getting sort of lost in the sauce that we are still operating in a color caste system, because we already know that on the first, there was an episode where I talked a little bit about code.
Very violent to be Black and to grow up in a home, with the Maltecos who are also hating of Blackness, and there is always this. My dad's, he's Black, and my mom was just like when my dad left us, the whole family was because he's Black. There was already this negative connotation and perception of you don't date Black men, and this is what happens when you have babies with a Black man. So it was we felt like a disgrace, and so
I had to learn because I grew up and was raised in Puerto Rico. That is not a word in Puerto Rico. And so when I came to the United States, started learning English. The way that I speak English right now is a product of who taught me to speak English. My parents spoke with an accent. I don't have an accent. So that means I was taught English by predominantly the television, my very white school teachers, and the people that I grew up with. And so I think, the way that some people choose to assimilate and the way that they're taught to assimilate can kind of coincide in a lot of ways. And I think one of the conversations that hopefully we'll have on Stranger Fruit 2 in the future is around Gen Z and the relationship to slang when it really comes from the Black community, and how they really just want to keep saying that slang and really adopt it as like a Gen Z thing when it really comes from Black culture. And it's being utilized as like this trendy, cool, like this is how we say things now.
You know who I think are the people to blame the most about that? Gay white men. Gay white men.
Say it though, say it.
Girl, I think gay white men are like the Karens to like, gay white men is to Karen. No, gay white men is to queer liberation as Karen is to racial liberation.
And feminism.
And feminism, 100%. Like, I always say that I'd rather be the only person of color. I'd rather be the only queer person in a space full of people of color than to be the only person of color in a gay white man space. Always. Because I'm like, we ain't gonna do that. You know what I mean? And to what you were saying, I love how you expressed that, like, that assimilation we choose to do and the forced assimilation. Because similar to you, Daisy, my mom was like, no, baby. Eres el más indio de la casa. You're the brownest of us all. You gonna learn Spanish. And so I was put in a bilingual immersion program, so I learned how to read and write both English and Spanish at the same time. And I think a lot of the times, folks, the discourse is like, let's not invalidate people who can't speak Spanish, like for the let's not invalidate people's Latinidad for not being able to speak Spanish. I take a lot of pride in being able to speak Spanish very well. Not only like a conversational Spanish, but now an academic Spanish, in the sense of like when I go to Mexico, I've also adopted, but that's a whole conversation about like biculturalism.
You're a fresa now.
Demos. Sí, yo soy la gringa, pero joteo más en chilango. Joteo más en chilango. Like I've learned to really like adopt Mexico City accent, that people who are from Mexico and they hear me speak Spanish, they're like, "Esta es la Ciudad de Mexico," and I'm like, "Pues sí, de la colonia," and it's cute because I think it just allows me to pass in certain ways, and it helps me because on top of that, one, being foreign and then being queer, it's like too much. So I'm like, let me just at least pass culturally, and then we can unpack the homophobia together. And it's better to deal with one oppression than twice, 2, 3, 4 at the same time. You're like, oh shit, hold on, agárrame.
Taking me for a ride.
And I think for me, the most important thing and why I say all that is because I grew up in a Salvadorian household. And I think it's because of the machismo that is my father's home country. So he was the one that dictated the cultural upbringing in the house. But my mom still made mole and pozole and like the traditional Mexican dishes for us. So we would also be, Mexican and have that a part of us. And recently, I think I lean more into the Mexican side of me because it's honoring my mother. We got daddy issues to process anyway. And I'm like, even though I haven't been to El Salvador, right? Like I feel 100% Salvadorian because I grew up in it. I know the fucking Salvadorian national anthem, and I don't know the Mexico one because I was watching. It's so complex.
So, okay. So, y'all heard how it was described as being biracial, Afro Latino. How, a lot of it's not accepted. So, here's my thoughts on that. Like, you heard when she said, like, the light-skinned people were more accepted than the dark-skinned people. In my family, on my mother's side, that's not true. I'm considered one of the light ones. Blonde hair, blue eyes. And we got a few others that's like blonde hair, blue eyes. my sisters, my mother's side of the family went like, it's like this. If you caramel complexion, you can have good hair, not good hair. You can have green eyes. But if you're that complexion, you're considered the prominent one. You're the beautiful one. You're the one that everyone should worship. Not us that's light-skinned or damn near white-skinned. We are the enemies in my mother family. If we look like that in my mother family, we are the enemies. We are talked about. We are told like, oh, she looks better than you. You're not all that pretty. We are actually told that. Then you have to find where they look up to if the light-skinned people, if you're worshiping the browner skinned people, or if you making them like your priority, then you're accepted. If you have no tends to make them your priority or to worship them, then you're not accepted. You're the outcast. So when I was listening to them speaking, and I was like, wow, that's not in my family. The light skin or on my mother's side is definitely not accepted. We are not accepted at all. We are the disgrace of what their family. Then I heard her say, as it went on, because it's really long, she said that they don't really trust biracial people because they don't feel that they need to pick a side. And that there to me was like, what? Why? Why would you want to pick a side? You don't need to pick a side. You know, you need to accept who you are. You need to love who you... This is what I was taught. Accept who you are. Love who you are. Respect who you are. I was taught this by my grandmother. People gonna look at you. They're gonna you're different. Because my mother, she's darker skinned. And when my mother used to come up to the school, I was told I was adopted. Why did I have funny eyes? Why did I have funny color hair? Like, it was, you know, it just was like bad. So my grandmother instilled like, no matter what people say, no matter how people feel about you, love your mother, respect you. Don't allow people to ever tell you what you are or where you come from. You know these things. So I don't allow people to tell me because the thing about me is I just do it for fun. I'll go up to the UN with my daughters and I go, I'm going home. And people will run up to me and be like, oh my God, where are you from? Oh my God, did you enjoy here? I hope you had a great time here. And I'm like, yeah, I had a wonderful time. I'm going home now. It's just, and my daughters laugh at it because they know I do it for fun. Because the thing is with people, the worst question I hate with people is, oh my God, where you from? Like, I hate that question. Where you from? Where your family from? You know, and sometimes I explain it, sometimes I don't. I'd be like, I'm from here. Literally from here. And they go, oh my God, really? And I'm going, yeah, really. Because it makes no sense for me to tell you where my family's from. It doesn't. So when I heard that, and then when I heard that the black community don't really, it takes a lot for them to accept biracial people. In the Latin community, they just don't accept the dark skin. It takes certain people to accept certain people. It really kind of like, wow. Because when she made the statement saying, we don't accept biracial people because you have to pick a side, that really was like, what? Why would you even say anything like that? Like, that statement doesn't stick. It just didn't stick with me. It didn't sit well with me. Like, no, you should never have to feel that you have to pick a side for anyone. You have to just be you, love you. And I wish, like I tell a lot of people, I wish that a lot of people had like grandparents like mine. Oh my God, I always say my grandmother was so wonderful. Where, or their parents, because a lot of times if your parents, tell you to accept who you are and to love who you are, you don't, because I was listening to the one girl who, she at one time, she hated being Afro Latino. She just hated it. And, she basically was saying that she hated it, until she had people who come along who showed her genuine love, who showed her that they really loved her, they really cared about her, and it made her feel good. But unfortunately, everybody doesn't have these type of people. Everybody doesn't have these type of people, in their life. So for mixed people, you have the right not to justify your existence in this world. You have the right to keep your race separate within you. You have the right not to justify your ethnic legitimacy. You have the right not to be responsible for people's discomfort when they see your physical or ethnic. Okay? You have the right to identify differently to strangers. You have the right to identify differently than strangers expect you to identify. You have the right to yourself to be different than how people identify you. You have the right to be differently than your brothers and sisters. You have the right to yourself differently or different situations. You have the right to create a vocabulary to communicate about being multi-radical or multi-ethnic, to change your identity over your lifetime and more than once. You have the right to have loyalties and identification with more than one group of people. And you have the right to freely choose who you befriend and love. Those are your rights. My favorite quote by Alicia Keys said, "My mixed background made me a broader person about to relate different cultures." My other favorite quote was, "I love being biracial. I love my hair. I love my eye, skin tone, and diversity. I am beautiful." My other favorite quote was, "I love being a biracial woman, but it still comes with unique challenges." My other favorite quote by Luke Whitehead, "I do not have to pick a side. I'm proud of all of me." My favorite quote by Halle Berry, "When you grow up in that multi-ethnic environment, you see the world differently. Being a mixed race child, I didn't always see color in people. I really didn't. It was other people that made me see the color all the time." So, choose you. Choose you. Love you. Love you. Don't let nobody identify you. Don't let nobody tell you who you are. Don't let nobody come up to you and be like, "Oh, pick a side." There's no sides. There's no side. Accept all of you. Love all of you. Your parents are different. My parents, I love all of them. Okay? Because without them, I wouldn't look the way I look. Without them, I wouldn't be here. Love you. Let no one identify who you shall or tell you who you are. And that's my theory on that. And please, thank you. Listen to Soy Podcast. Please give it a 5-star review on Speaker, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and Soy Podcast app. Please share. You can come here at sp766752@gmail.com. Follow my son Sounds on Instagram. Soy Center Argo on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Follow King's Flex on SoundCloud. Follow TJVUCLAIN. She have a book called Black Girl in Orange. Follow Female Reform, and have a blessed night.
The reason I tell you to love you is because when my family had, my mother's side of the family chose to make us feel that way, and we were young, and even though my grandmother had told us to actually love ourselves and to accept ourselves, but before she had instilled this into us, I remember looking at my sister Cassandra, caramel complexion, green eyes, and I just thought, like, she's very beautiful. That was my thought. She was very beautiful because, like I said, on my mother's side of the family, caramel complexion, great, good hair, green eyes, any of that was considered very beautiful. So I said to myself, when I have my children, I want my children to actually look like her, because I don't want my children to go through what I went through in my family. You know, the hatred and the dislike. I wanted them to be actually loved and accepted. So when I had my kids, I prayed. This is no lie. I prayed to God that my kids look exactly like my sister. So when I had my children, my kids actually came out looking exactly like my sister. So for the longest, they thought my sister was my kid's mother. And I look at I have my last child looks exactly like me. She's a split image of me. And she looks at her siblings, and I notice that she does not accept her. So I always have to instill in her, love you, accept you, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that. Because she looks at her sibling, one of her sisters, and she just thinks she's so beautiful, like, and she's my darkest child, like, she's my caramel child. So I have 3 that looks like me, 3 that's light like me, and the rest is caramel. So when she looks at her, she says, if I tell her she looks like her other sister, which is light skinned, and she'll say, no, I look like her, because everybody worship her, everybody tell her how beautiful she is. And I said, well, you are beautiful too. So you don't have to, you have to just love and accept yourself. And the reason I instill that in her, because my grandmother instilled that in, and I know how that feel when you, like I said, when I looked at my sister Cassandra, I used to always say, oh, she's so pretty. I want my children to look just like her. I want my children to be her, so they won't have to experience what I was going through. And it was so funny because when me and her was talking, she always wanted her children to be my complexion and to have to be very light. But like I said, you don't know what we went through. You don't know the hatred in this family that we go through. You know, it's just like pure hate unless we kissing ass to these people, unless we being accepted by them, telling them they're beautiful or making them feel more beautiful than we are. So and if we're not doing that, they're trying to turn us against each other, making us hate each other, like making a light-skinned part of the family hate each other because, oh, she thinks she's better than you, or oh, she thinks she's better than you, or oh, she's jealous of you. Like, they do the realest, real ignorance, grimiest things. And I just think the ignorance and the stupidity comes from every family, every culture, you know, especially when you're mixed. You know, people don't understand being mixed is a very, very hard thing to do. So to be mixed in the world, and you can fit in many sides, you can pass many sides in this world, but none of them going to accept you. Me, I can pass many sides in this world, but none of them are going to accept me. To actually live that in your own family is a disgrace. Like, you should never, it's bad enough you know how society sees you. Why have to be living that way in your family? So, yeah, I found that to me, was one of the best podcasts that I have heard. Because, everybody be like, what do you think about other podcasts? That Stranger Fruit is like one of the best to me. So, yeah. And like I said, y'all have a blessed night.